Hi guys, okay, so this video, what I really want to talk about is Wicca, and when you've kind of discovered Wicca and when you've discovered that it is the direction that you want to go, what is the best way to go about learning, kind of where do you go. So for me, the people that I meet, or the people I have met, when it comes to religion, spirituality and Wicca, people tend to get to a point in their lives where they start to look a bit further. This is not everyone, just certain people. They tend to look a little bit further and they start asking questions. And there are some questions that life in general cannot answer for you. You start looking further, you start looking into history, you start looking into reasons why things happen, why they have happened, you start looking into nature, start looking at the way that the world works, and you start looking within yourself and how you work. And that is basically your ladder to Wicca. That's sort of the ladder to the front door to Wicca. It kind of takes you straight there. Because once you've done all of that, you've already started your journey, your spiritual journey, very much so. And you're just kind of, sorry, I'm trying to get comfortable. I'm so uncomfortable. You've already started your spiritual journey, very much so. And religious-wise, because religion and spirituality are different. Religion-wise, I'm going to have to put my camera somewhere else. I'm so sorry. Oh, very, very uncomfortable. Let's see. Aha. Okay, religion-wise, Wicca is your religion, not your spiritual path. Your spirituality is your way of life. So all of the questions and things that you've found for yourself before you even discovered Wicca, that is your spirituality, and your spirituality will continue to grow forever. It will continue to grow alongside your religion, but also separately. So when people first find Wicca, they tend to dive in head first. They get a few books, they read a few books, they want all of the tools, they want to do spells, they want to do rituals, they want clothes, as I've said before, you know, they just want to dive in, they want to get into it as far as they can. And this is completely understandable because everybody does it. It's so exciting to have been searching for so long for a path that makes sense, for something that makes sense, and then finally find something that feels like home, finally find something that seems to make sense. It's so exciting to have found that, and you just want as much of it in your life as possible. You just want to decorate yourself Wicca. But it's not necessarily the most sensible thing to do. I'm not saying it's the wrong thing to do, but it's not necessarily the most sensible thing to do. You'll find yourself spending an awful lot of money very, very quickly on things that later on you realise you really didn't need to. I would suggest, when you first discovered the path of Wicca, hello Louie, sorry my cat's here, when you first discovered the path of Wicca, and you know that this is a direction that you would certainly like to take yourself in for the moment. It may not be the direction you want to be in forever. Sorry, my cat's going to knock over my camera, I think. Stop it, please. It may not be the direction that you want to take your life in forever. You can't possibly know that right now. You know, you may be Wiccan for 10 years, you may be Wiccan forever, you don't know. But it's certainly something that appeals to you at the moment. Then it is right for you at the moment. If you truly feel that it appeals to you, not because you saw it on a TV show or because you read about it in a magazine, but because you have, you know, really searched yourself and come to a spiritual belief that Wicca is the right path for you at the moment, then it's because it is. But I would recommend, before buying any books, or before buying any tools, or before buying anything, because you don't need to at this point. I'm not saying you can't, you can spend as much money as you want, but before you do that, you don't need to rush into it, because you can always buy stuff later. You don't need stuff straight away. Before you do that, I would say to know your reasons. Know the reasons why you want to be Wiccan. Not, oh, I want to be Wiccan because I want a religion and this happens to fit, you know, this happens to just sort of be the most appealing one I can possibly find. That's really not a reason. For me, if you're going to label yourselves as something up front, then it should pretty much be something that you already are, you just weren't aware of. So along the lines of, you're pretty much living your life by the Wiccan Rede already, even though you've never read it before. You pretty much, because those are your morals anyway, so you're pretty much living your life that way anyway. So then, fair enough, feel free to call yourself a Wiccan, but don't just sort of learn what Wicca is and run around screaming I'm a Wiccan, because you're not helping yourself. It's good to acknowledge the fact of how little you know, because when you acknowledge how little you know, it gives you so much space to learn. If you walk around thinking you know everything, you don't look hard enough, and then you don't learn anything. It's so important to ask questions, because every time we ask questions, we grow as a person. The journey, for me, the idea of the spiritual journey is finding the answers. You may not get the answers that you thought you wanted, or the answers that you thought you were going to get, but finding the answers is the journey itself. So know your reasons, for a start, as to why Wicca appeals to you. Know fully what the religion is. Learn where it's coming from. Learn where it started. Learn the history. Learn where it started. Learn sort of basic rules, like I cannot speak today. Learn basic rules such as the Wiccan Rede, and learn in a way that you can define things for yourself, such as everybody has a different definition for the Wiccan Rede. Everybody has a different definition for the harm none, do what you will section of the Rede. Learn what is important to you in a deity sense, which is the whole point of the religion in the first place. Learn what appeals to you. You think, do I connect to a male and a female element, or do I only connect to one or the other? Because that's okay. Do I only connect to one or the other? If so, which do I connect to? Do I see them, do I believe in two? And if so, do I see them as a whole that is separated into aspects, but they are very much one energy force? Do I see them as two individual beings? Do I see them as a human being like me? Do I see them as particles of energy? What do you view it as? No. Because when you first start taking on the label, you're going to meet people that say to you, what does that mean? Whether they mean it in a derogatory sense or not, whether they're sort of being rude to you or whether they're just genuinely interested. You're going to meet people that want to know what it is, because, so many people don't. It's not that common in the workplace or at school to find, pagans. So learn what it is that you're claiming to be, because otherwise you're going to look silly when you can't turn around and tell anyone. I would say that until you can have a conversation with somebody explaining exactly what your beliefs are and exactly what Wicca is to you, then that you shouldn't really call yourself Wiccan. Not because I'm telling you not to, but just if you can't fully understand what it is yourself, then you shouldn't be classing yourself as that. Because it may be wrong. For example, if you were classing yourself as homosexual, if you don't fully understand what the term homosexual means, then you could be running around calling yourself homosexual. However, if you're not in fact homosexual, you're giving off the wrong impression. And it's kind of the same. Obviously, Wicca and homosexual has nothing to do with each other. They mean completely different things. But in that sense, if you're to run around telling people that you're a Wiccan, if you don't really know what it means, then, a lot of people are very, very shocked when they find out that there is any sort of sex involved in the idea of Wicca. They have no idea, they've never read that, because they've only read books that make it sound all warm and fuzzy. And I'm not saying that everybody that, classes themselves as Wiccan goes around having orgies or anything, of course I'm not. But there is an element of sex to it that not necessarily for everybody, but it was there originally, and it was very much practiced. So you know, you need to know these things, because when people come at you and they say, oh, you know, and they do put you down, if you want to defend yourself, if you want to live your life in this way, you need to know these things. So it's very, very important to know your reasons, know why you believe this, know what you believe, know what you're classing yourself as, and know where it came from, know what you believe in the sense of a higher power, in a god and goddess form. I would say the best way to get in touch, and I think everybody will probably say this, the best way to get in touch with your spiritual side and with nature and with, you know, deities, with the elements, is to be in them, is to be outside. You know, I'm outside right now, as you can see, the sun's up there, and, you know, that's the god for me, is the sun. For me, right now, even though I'm doing a video, I'm obviously not sort of putting my full intentions into kind of being connected. For me, I still feel a connection right now. If I come out here at night time and the moon is out and it's dark, I feel a connection with the goddess, because that is what it is for me. The moon is the goddess, the sun is the god, in my belief. That's not for everyone. So again, you know, look into that for yourself. When I want to connect with elements, I go outside and I connect with them, with water, you know. And if, okay, say you live in the middle of a city and everywhere is polluted and you physically feel like you cannot connect with the elements. Have a bath to connect with water. Have a bath, have a shower. Even, you know, just stand outside in the rain. It's still there. If you want to connect with earth, buy a pot plant. Help something grow. You know, that will be you connecting with earth. If you want to connect with fire, candles. You know, it's still there. It's learning to work with that kind of thing. It's everything is there. But obviously, to connect with nature, it's much easier to be out in nature, but don't give yourself excuses because you don't want to do the work. If you think, I mean, nobody else is going to tell you what to do, but if you find yourself thinking, I'm kind of making excuses so that I don't have to do it, then it's not right for you. And I'm not saying that it will never be right for you. Maybe it's just not right for you now. I found this path in 1998. That's when I first found out about Wicca. And I started researching in 1998. Now, for about 6-7 years, I researched on and off. I would research non-stop for 6 months. It would be all I would think about. And then for 3 or 4 months, I wouldn't even pick up a book, you know? I wouldn't do anything. I'd just think, ugh. Not because I wasn't interested, but because after you take in a certain amount of information, you need some downtime, you know? You have to let it all process. And I suppose that's the difference between when you're an adult and you're taking in information, because adults tend to take in information a lot slower. They take it in slower, they research slower. On the whole, this is, I'm not saying everyone, they take in information slower, they research slower. However, once it's in there, it tends to stay in there. Whereas children take in so much all at once, but it can fall out very, very quickly because they replace it with other stuff, you know? So I wouldn't rush anything. I think it's very, very important to take it each day at a time. Appreciate each day. I've heard the saying so many times, live each day like it's your last. However, I don't disagree with that as such, but that's not what I live my life by. I like to live every day like it's my first. I think if you live every day like it's your last, then you could technically have an awful lot of regret, or you could have, you know, a lot of negativity around. But I think if you live every day like your first, live every day like you don't know negativity. That's what I think. Learn the difference between positive and negativity. Learn the difference between good and bad. Or between, sorry, not between good and bad, between good and bad and light and dark. Because a lot of people, when they're fairly, sorry, I'm stroking my cat, I'm not just sort of flapping my arms around. A lot of people, when they're fairly new to the path, use the terms good and bad, where they should perhaps be using the terms light and dark. And there is a difference. There's a lot of words in your everyday life that you would use as the same thing, you know, that in normal everyday society you can use, whereas when it comes to this, we do have our own terms. And, you know, look into the difference between Wicca, witchcraft and paganism. because so many people say Wiccan and pagan like it's the same thing. It's not. Paganism is not a religion. Paganism is a tree. It's an umbrella term for any religion that is not Abrahamic. So Wicca is a religion. Paganism is an umbrella term for any religion under the umbrella of paganism. Wicca is paganism, but paganism is not Wicca. I hope that makes sense. So you have your tree, which is paganism, you have your religion, which is your branch, which is Wicca, and you have your leaves, which are the traditions of that religion, so Blue Star Wicca. And there are many traditions within Wicca as well, so, you know, look for one that suits you. There are some that only worship a god, some that only worship a goddess. Look for one that suits you. What else was I going to say? Maybe that was it. Okay, well, thank you very much for watching my video. I hope this helps. Because I did kind of this before, and I put it into like 4 different videos, and I just wanted to pile it all into one. So this is where I would advise you start. Where, when you know that this is the path you want at this point in your life, that is what I would suggest doing to take your first steps. Don't rush, because if you rush, you're only going to have to come back. Do it slowly. You know, I know that it's annoying, but the slower you do things, you know, the better you'll do them. If you do it slow enough and you're careful enough the first time, you won't have to come back and do it again. If you rush through it, you will more than likely have to come back. And that can be very frustrating when you want to get on and grow as a person and you have to keep doing the same things. So yeah, anyway, I'm going to go because kids crying next door, it's not very nice. So yeah, so I hope you guys are well. Thank you for watching my video. If you have any questions, please let me know and I will get back to you. Blessed be.